really the greatest challenge is believing that a future exists for us, a future where individually and collectively we prosper and thrive. A lot of the so-called problems or challenges that we face individually and collectively are of our own creation. They're not really external circumstances that we now must respond to in order to survive and thrive. They're actually of our own making through the choices that we have made collectively and individually. I mean, really, the starting point for the conversation is the belief that our choices do make a difference. That how we choose, moment to moment, second by second, will create our experience in the future. Another thing we have to keep in mind when we're exploring what our possible future might be is to remember that we live in a story, a cultural myth, which has been changing and morphing as each generation replaces the one before it. They modify that cultural story, but the cultural story is central to people's experience. It determines to a large extent who they experience themselves as, who they believe themselves to be, and what they believe their possibilities are. They're all contained within that cultural story, which we are constantly telling ourselves and reaffirming by everything we do. By doing the things we do, we are both confirming and expanding that cultural story. So if it is a story, and I certainly believe it is, then we can change it. We can start telling a different story about ourselves, who we are and who we can be. So what is resilience? What does it mean to be resilient? Part of it means that no matter what shows up, no matter what your future brings, you have the ability to respond to challenges in a creative way that will allow you to thrive in the future. Resilience is based on natural conditions, the environment that you find yourself in to some extent, because that determines what physical resources are available in the sense of energy, water, and natural resources, minerals, biological resources. They all determine to some extent how resilient you can be in response to something like climate change. But your cultural resilience has to do with who you believe yourself to be. If people believe that the future is fixed and inevitable, and that human nature is also immutable and can't be changed, then that leaves them very little room to maneuver in order to create a future where everyone can thrive. And that is a hallmark of resilience, being able to rearrange a system, no matter what shows up, so that the system can respond and be in response to and be in harmony with and in resonance with the rest of the universe. Resilience and diversity are related to each other. If a system is diverse, it can better respond to challenges. In biological systems, the more organisms that live in a particular ecosystem, the more resilient that ecosystem is. I'm a goat breeder. I've been breeding goats for more than 50 years. And one thing that breeders learn is that narrowing the gene pool, narrowing diversity, leads to unforeseen negative outcomes. I've always strived in my breeding program to bring in as many diverse genetic elements as possible, because I found that that creates the healthiest animals and the ones that are also the most enjoyable. As for me as a breeder, I want my animals to be healthy.